Alright, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel. We have another video on the FX, and right now what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and check all the spark plugs to make sure everything's okay. And I had done this, I would say, a few months back, and I had noticed that the spark plug right here was getting pretty dark and it looks like it's being covered up with like oil or something. You kind of see that it's like burning right here as well. There's like a little bit of residue right there. So I'm starting to think that there's possibly a leak in the spark plug, but we're gonna go ahead and check the rest of them to see if maybe they are possibly leaking as well. So there's a good chance I may have to replace the valve cover gaskets again, which I just did not that long ago, but I just want to make sure the car's running perfectly and redo the seals again and then torque them down properly how you're supposed to. Because the last time, honestly, I went ahead and just tightened it evenly throughout the entire valve cover, but you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to torque them down to a specific spec so everything is aligned properly. Now, I don't really see like a lot of leaks like they look dry. There's a little bit right here, and then like a little bit right there, as you can see, of like leakage. So, I mean, there's a good chance that I just didn't torque them down correctly, which I should have done right the first time, and I gotta most likely redo it. So that's what we're most likely gonna just do in this video right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start taking off all this right here, checking out each individual one. I could just remove the throttle body, but since I'm just gonna go ahead and remove everything, might as well just take everything off at the same time. So the first thing you want to go ahead and do is just make sure that you remove everything that connects to the throttle body, which is going to be like this hose right there, this hose. You could disconnect it from right here, and then all these plugs that are back here as well, just taking all of these off that connect to this directly. This hose right there as well, even this hose right here, just pulling that back. I think this one connects to it as well, to a bracket. So as long as you can disconnect all of these, then you'll be fine. So we're going to go ahead and start doing that really quick. Alright, I got this little old rag. It's gonna push the things to the side so it doesn't go inside the hole itself. I mean, you can also put a rag, but it's completely up to you. Alright, I'm removing the last 10 mil right here in the middle. And the gasket stayed on. Now these gaskets are supposed to be different from each valve cover, so you just gotta check them. There you go. Alright, fits perfectly in there. Now this same thing with this one right here. Clean up the surface. Alright, and then you want to go ahead and clean up the surface extremely well. And we gotta take off this residue right here with a scraper or like a sharp knife. I have a few of them upstairs, so I'll just go get one really quick. I think I have a knife right there that I can use. And then same thing right here, see how dirty this is? I'll clean this. Make sure it sticks properly. Look at that, see how easy it just comes off? Especially if the knife is sharp, it'll make it a lot easier. Alright, I got the surface for the most part pretty much all cleaned up. Now we're gonna go ahead and add some of this ultra black gasket maker right here. We're gonna dab it on each of these like little corners right there. That's the only place where you need to put them out. And then we're good to go ahead and put the valve cover on, and this time we're gonna go ahead and actually torque it to spec. I have a large torque wrench and I'm not sure if that's gonna fit in this area. Just need like a little bit right there, right here. Down right here. Alright, that should be perfect. Then we can go ahead and put the valve cover back on. Make sure everything is seated on there appropriately. But I do actually want to go ahead and clean the valve cover. It looks pretty dirty. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let me remove this and then clean it. Alright, so we got this on there. I pushed it in real good. Now when you put it on, just want to make sure it doesn't fall off like that, which is gonna suck. Alright, so now you gotta pray that everything stays in place, then try to put it back in. I think it's best to just go like this to the back. Alright, so for the most part, it looks like our main gasket is still in place, but we know for sure that the middle gasket fell, so we gotta get it in there, push it back in, and hopefully it just stays. Alright, so our main gasket's still in place. Now, just gotta make sure. Okay, so the middle one completely fell off. Right there, you can see that it just came off. So now this time, the middle ones kept falling off. So what I did was the middle one would like stay in, these outer ones would pop off. So while I was putting the valve cover on, I used my fingers to like hold the valve cover in place right here in the middle. Same thing right here, and then I pushed it down, aligned it with the holes, and now it should be good. So now the orientation in installing this is to put the middle one in first, but I'm not gonna tie in any of them just yet. I'm just gonna put this one on there, so it can hold the valve cover and not move the gaskets, because right now everything is seated correctly and I don't want it to pop off and then everything come out. Right there, everything looks good. Everything looks good right there as well. So now I'm just gonna tighten that by hand. And then put this other one over here. Now, I'm actually going to check the orientation right now so we can go ahead and begin following that really quick, because it's really important. Okay, everything's still intact. Alright, so now we can just place it on. Alright, cool. This one was a little bit easier than the other side in my opinion. Alright, so now we got the other side. It's kind of close to the same orientation, but the bolts are in different locations. So still the middle one is number 1. And then it looks like number 2 is going to be, I think it's this one right here. Or am I looking at this wrong? I think I am looking at it wrong. Yes, I am. It kind of goes like this. So this is 1, 2 is up here, and 3 is down there. So 3 would be down here. Then 4 would be this one over here. And then 5 is that one down there. 6 is up there. 7 is down there. 8 is up, down. So technically you're kind of going like in a zigzag rotation, but kind of like starting in the middle. So it goes like this, 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 like that. Kind of get the idea. Alright, I decided to go ahead and remove the fuel injectors with the fuel rails. So I can go ahead and get all these tested to make sure that these work as well. Since everything's already off, might as well just take this off as well. So you can, drop them off somewhere to get tested at least, to make sure these are running properly as well. The car has a lot of miles on it, and I might as well just get it tested. So I know these come off, and then there's like a clip that holds this in. I think you gotta pull this. Yeah, you pull this retainer right here out. As you can see, it was already coming out. And there you go. Pops out just like that. So I'm gonna take off the rest of these, and then I don't think I'll need the fuel rails for them to test them. I think they just need the injectors. But we'll take the whole thing just in case and call around to see who can actually test these. I went ahead and clean the surface a little bit, and then I put some tape so nothing just falls in there. I think we should be okay. Alright guys, so here are all of the injectors. We're going to go ahead and drop them off so we can pick them up tomorrow. I found a guy locally that can go ahead and clean them and check them to make sure that they are spraying correctly, so we can make sure that this is not a problem. So let's go ahead and drop these off, and then I'll pick it back up tomorrow once we get these. And also pick up a 1/4 ratchet so we can go ahead and torque down the valve covers while we wait for this to get done. Alright guys, so we got the injectors back, and they look all nice and clean, as you guys can see right here. Now, he did tell me that 2 of them were not running like at full capacity. I think he said they were off by 15 cc's. I did check with him to see if like that would cause an issue. He said like not really, like it's just like barely off, but it could potentially cause like a small idling issue since it's not running like 100%. But he did say that these were pretty dirty, so it's a good thing that we got these cleaned up and putting them back on the car. But he says now that they're all running 100%, so we should be good to just throw these back on the FX. So let's go ahead and begin installing these. And then just make sure they all seat properly. They should be pushed in all the way down, not sticking out. And then over here, just need to put the bolt in so I can secure it on there. Same thing right here. I just don't remember where I put them at actually. So now I gotta look for that. But since we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing back on. Just make sure the O-rings are in good shape. If it's torn, it's gonna leak. So just make sure you check that first. O-ring looks good right here. Yeah. Alright, now once you put these 12 mils back in, then everything should be pushed down nicely. That back plug over there was pretty hard to get to. The plug connecting to it is upside down, so it was a little bit like harder to get my fingers in there. How I did it was I put my hand back here and I was able to kind of get it right there. So you guys might have to do the same thing as well. But yeah, that was probably the hardest part of that. And injectors were pretty easy to install. And hopefully she's running a lot smoother. And then let me be 100% honest with you guys. The first time I did these valve covers, I way over torqued them the first time, because I looked up the torque specs on the valve cover itself, and it's literally like nothing. Like it goes by inch pounds, I believe, and I think it was like 83 inch pounds what you're supposed to end on, and I just torqued them down hard as heck. And when I was doing the measurement and everything, I guess when you translate it over to foot pounds, it's like 6 foot pounds, and that's almost like nothing. Why is this one not going in? So just be aware of that. Like, you're honestly not tightening these valve covers extremely hard. Maybe it's because this one's not lining up. I got that one in. Alright, now for the intake manifold, you want to put the intake manifold at, I think it's 5 foot pounds first. So you want to check all of them, make sure they're at 5 foot pounds. Once you do that, then you want to torque them down to, I think it was 19. Alright, now we're going to put my torque wrench at 19, pretty much like 20. So technically this would be like 19 right there. We'll do like 20 right there. That's 20. Right there. Right there. Right there. Alright, I just got everything put back together. Let's go ahead and prime the car a little bit.
So check all state first for a quote.
Have to do this a few times. Just to get the fuel to go up. I think it should be the last one. It should be good. So for the most part, we are pretty much done. We just got to bleed the coolant system. Like I have this little funnel right here you can get on Amazon. It's pretty cheap and it helps out a lot in bleeding out the coolant system. Alright, so now we just gotta turn the car on, let it run, get to operating temperature, and then rev it a few times so we can get the coolant flowing. And then the other day actually was not running good because I forgot to connect one of the vacuum hoses in the back. That's why it was bogging really bad. This hose right here I had forgot to connect, and that's what caused that whole issue. So just make sure all of your hoses are connected correctly to avoid any issues. Everything looks good right there, all that's connected. Same thing right here, everything's tightened down. Now just gotta let it warm up, and then we have to make sure that the thermostat opens so the coolant can begin to flow through the entire car. Alright, so far the car's been running for a few minutes already, and it hasn't been like bogging or anything weird like it used to. So far it's sounding pretty good and healthy, which is good. No issues so far. So let's just keep it running for a while. You know, I'll do a test drive later. I gotta drive like an hour somewhere. So that'll give me a good idea if it's, you know, back to normal, if it still needs a little bit more. But yep, got the strip bar back on. Love how these blue hoses look right here. Makes it look really sick and clean. Not too much blue, but you know, just a little bit here and there to give it a little bit more pop. I think it's just looking really nice. Now, for those of you that don't know, the purpose of this funnel right here is to put the coolant at the highest point so everything fills up where it's supposed to. So like right now you can tell that we removed the coolant lines right here to the throttle body, and the coolant lines are actually pretty level, if not like a little bit lower than this point right here. So raising it up just a little bit just ensures that everything gets filled up with coolant where it's supposed to be. If you have the car slanted down, that's going to now be the lowest point, and then this is going to be higher, which is not going to allow the coolant to flow properly, which is why these funnels work so effectively due to that specific reason. If you don't have one of these, I mean, it's perfectly fine. You just have to make sure the car is at a slant up. You can do that with a jack or some other type of tool that you may have in order to move the car a little bit, you know, higher up in the front to bleed the system properly. So we're just gonna let it run, rev the car a few times to get the car a little bit warm, make sure everything passes through correctly, and then after that, you know, we should be good. I've done this already the last time I did this, and I had no issues, whatever. The car didn't overheat or nothing like that. Alright guys, today is the next day. I drove the car yesterday for, I would say, over an hour, and it did run a whole lot better. I still had it bog like once or twice, but it's a whole lot better than before where it would bog every single time. I would go to like a stop and then the idle would like go back up. I did do an idle relearn, and so far it looks like it is running a little bit better. But after allowing the car to run for a while, and if you guys watched my previous video, I noticed that my PCV valves were making like a hissing sound, and I looked up what that could be. And it says that it is possible that the PCV valves are going out, and that's why they're malfunctioning. So I think maybe that could be possibly an issue, because the PCV valves actually leads to this right here. So if something's going on with the PCV valve and it's throwing incorrect air, into the intake manifold, it's gonna throw it off, no problem. Same thing for this over here. There's this pipe right here, and it was completely having the car bog really bad because that hose wasn't connected. So I'm sure if something's off right here, it's gonna cause it to bog. So I'm thinking that might be my issue. It might be the PCV valves, because this one is the one that makes noise, and this is the one that's allowing a lot of oil to pass through. I'm actually gonna check it right now since I drove it yesterday. But this one allows like a whole lot more oil to pass in comparison to that side, because I have switched to PCV valves to see if this one is, you know, causing a lot more oil to flow through, and it actually is. Also, it making a hissing, rattling sound. That's no bueno. But yeah, hopefully this helps you guys out and installing everything. One mistake I made for sure was the valve covers. Make sure you do not over tighten those. I did the mistake the first time of over tightening them, and that's possibly why I had leaks in the middle, where the spark plugs go. And I completely forgot to mention that earlier in the video. The spark plugs, it just has one 10 mil bolt on each of the coil pack, and then unplug it and then it'll come right off. I think that's the only thing that I really forgot to mention on how to remove those. And then to get a little bit more access right here, I removed technically all of these bolts right here. So I removed this right here. On yours is going to be a 10 mil. I added this aftermarket one. Remove these 10 mils in order to remove the fuel rail. Make sure you let your car sit overnight for the pressure to be gone. But if you just turn on the car like recently, within a few minutes, there's going to be pressure in it. And once you take it off, fuel is just going to shoot out. So you might want to actually put a towel on there if you plan on removing this. And then I took this off right here to loosen it, give me more space. Same thing, took this plug off right here. Just pretty much took everything off right here. There's a 12 mil right here at the bottom to move it out of the way. And then disconnect this one right here to get the fuel connection right here, or rail, out of the way. And that's how I got access to that. And the fuel rails just have two, well actually in total 4 12 mils holding it in. So there's 2 right here and 2 like over here where it connects in the back. And that's how you take off the fuel rails, and you just gotta pull it up. And that's the only thing I think I forgot to mention about the fuel rails as well. There's nothing else connecting it other than one plug in the back and those 4 12 mils for the fuel rails. But yeah, that's gonna conclude the video, guys. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll link everything down below that I picked up in order to do this. And these gaskets are actually pretty good. I used them on my VK45, which is the V8, and I had no issues. And right here you can see that they're in pretty good condition, but because I over tightened them, I'm sure that's why I was having issues. So it's a user error, not really gasket error. Those are, I think, called Pelpro, some shit like that. The ones I'm using right now are good as well. I already checked the sides. You can kind of see right there, nothing's leaking. That's how you can kind of tell if it's leaking or not. Same thing on this side. So everything's, you know, holding up pretty good. But thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.